Welcome on in here to the midweek edition of Wager Talk Extra. I'm your host, Dan Alexander, alongside all our great guests, reminding you no matter what you're cashing on, that money all spends the same. We got a great show planned for you here today. We got the debut of my man, Robbie Veno. We're going to be talking a little extra football as we're going to do a little XFL, a little USFL, and then Kevin Dolan, the Irishman, going to shut things down for us, taking a look at a Thursday soccer play and a big-time boxing matchup this weekend between two social media superstars. So that's what we have on tap for you before we get into it. Want to remind you, if it's your first time ever joining us here, you're thinking about maybe buying some picks from some of our guys here, well, make sure you use that promo code TRYWT. It'll slash 50% off your first purchase. So we'll mention that a little bit later in the show, but as you see it there, a first daily or 3-day all access pass going to get you 50% off there using the code TRYWT. So now you know the code. Let's find out who you're going to use it on. Robbie Veno joining us here. And Rob, before we get into it, man, always a pleasure getting to talk to you, whether it's on air, whether it's off air. So before we talk a little USFL, a little XFL, how we doing, man? And welcome to your first edition of Wager Talk Extra.
Yeah, how lucky am I? Man, how have I not made it to this show already? My goodness, Dan. Yeah, great to be here with you, buddy. We haven't gotten to talk a lot of the exterior football leagues so far this season. One coming to a close, one just beginning, but they've certainly been profitable, Dan. XFL has been good to me all season long, 61% winners, and the USFL got off to a 2-0 start last week, so excited to talk about it. We have our own hometown Philadelphia Stars back in the USFL this year, off to a pretty good start. So we can get rolling here and see what we can cash in on this weekend in extra football.
Yeah, I still don't know how the Philadelphia team ended up with like a bootleg Dallas Cowboys logo. But that's neither here nor there. As long as they keep winning, we're happy with it, Rob. And we're also loving the fact that you're off to a 2-0 start in the USFL. As you mentioned, XFL has been a bread and butter for you all year long. Totals have been cooking, but you want to take a look at the side in an all-Texas affair. So Houston at Arlington, short line in this one, Rob. How are you betting it?
Yeah, so for those who don't know or who haven't followed, this is the end of the regular season for the XFL. It's the final week, and it works much like any other league works, right? At the end of the year, teams that have clinched have nothing to play for, and others are still scrambling to get into the playoffs in the XFL because it's an 8-team league. You get 2 divisional winners that'll host next week's championship games, both North and South. And you get a bunch of others that are trying to scramble in for the extra spot in the North and the extra spot in the South. 4 teams in all make it. Here we have one of those games, Houston at Arlington, Dan, where Houston's already in. They clinched the South Championship last week. They will be the host in the championship game next week. Arlington has a chance to get in. Everything's in their own hands. If they win, they're in. So here they're home. You would think motivationally it is all in favor of the Renegades here. Like most leagues, and in the beginning, Dan, you had to really think this one through because these guys are playing for spots really in NFL training camps. So the automatic assumption that everybody will be benched, that's a starter, you have to kind of make sure. In this instance, it does look like Houston will be resting most of their key players. So we have a little bit of an edge there personnel-wise with Arlington. But let's talk about the second half slide by these Houston Roughnecks, who started off the year as clearly the best offensive team in this league. Head coach Wade Phillips had a solid defense to go with the really good offense. But back half of the season has been miserable for this team, and in particular their offense. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games against the spread. Their only cover was last week, and barely because they were laying 6.5. They win by 7, and they had to kick a field goal with about 1:49 left in that one to beat the 2-7 Vegas Vipers. So you can see that it's been a struggle for Houston. They were outgained in that game, 316 to 237. Their offense only put up 15 points. 13 of their points were scored by the defense. So the offense, one more time again, struggled. They've been outgained 4 of each of their last 5 games. In those games, those 4 in particular, they've averaged just 220 and a half yards per game, only 15.3 points per game. The only outlier in that 5 game stretch was a game where, out of desperation, down 28-6 at the end of the third, they went to backup quarterback Cole McDonald. Maybe, those who play the ultimate degenerate special in college football and bet the Hawaii game at 12:30 or 1 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, you know who Cole McDonald is. Cole McDonald was the quarterback for Hawaii. He came in that particular game against against DC, and led 3 late scoring drives. But really, other than that, they've been terrible for over a month now on offense. The other side of the coin, Arlington was terrible all year long on offense. So what did they do a couple of weeks ago? They go out and they acquire veteran quarterback Luis Perez from the Vegas Vipers. Now, Perez didn't play the first week he was there, played a little reserve last week or the week before. And last week he got his first start. And all of a sudden, this Arlington team began to move the football. They trailed 26-9 at the end of 3. Perez in the fourth quarter leads 3 straight scoring drives, tie game, 26-26 against the league's best team, DC Defenders. It goes OT. Arlington loses by 2, but they cover real easily in that game. Perez went 31 of 41 for 335, QB rating of 97.1. The most impressive thing in that game, Dan, was this team that could not move the football whatsoever for 8 weeks. Last week comes up with 29 first downs. Remember, you don't get first downs in overtime here. It's strictly a 2-point conversion style overtime. So they got 29 first downs, 321 passing yards, 434 total yards. All of those were season highs yielded by the DC Defenders. So I would sum it up this way. Motivationally, leans towards the Renegades. Which team is descending and which team is ascending as far as offense is concerned? Lean towards the Renegades. Who's got the home field? Lean towards the Renegades. I think I'm willing to lay 1 point here, Dan. I think the host gets this one done. And then come next week, we get a rematch of this same game on a different field. But for me, it's going to be Arlington -1, like what I'm seeing out of Luis Perez and that offense. They've got a top 3 defense to go with that. Looks like a solid play.
Man, if you're not ready for this game after that breakdown, I don't know what to tell you. We're looking towards Arlington, and they're laying the 1 at only -115. Might not be an awful idea, even just doing a little, if your bankroll allows for it, go with the money line, so we don't have to sweat with any of that push. But if you want to get a little more advantageous, no, be paying a little more juice, lay the -1. That's the way Rob Veno suggests you do it. All right, XFL, as you said, setting up the playoffs, so we'll have to have you back here, talk a little playoff action as the XFL rolls around, but you'll be back with us all USFL season long. 2-0 start is how you started it off, and now you want to take a look at 2 semi-local teams for you and I. We're taking a look at New Jersey taking on Pittsburgh. New Jersey in this one, the under the field goal favorite. We got any key numbers in USFL? Because if we're going by NFL, that 2.5 would be a good-looking spot. But how are you going to be betting this game that's being played in Canton?
Yeah, it's crazy key numbers, Dan, especially, I'm mostly a totals player, and those key numbers go down the drain with the potential for a 1-point conversion, 2-point conversion, 3-point conversion. You just never know whether it's going to be a 6, 7, or 8, 9, or 9-point touchdown. So key numbers kind of down the drain here in this league. Earlier, you talked about a bootleg logo for the Philadelphia Stars. And it's interesting here the way this league is situated this year, Dan. Last year, they played every single game on Birmingham's home field in Alabama.
Yep.
This year, they spread it out to 4 different ones. So the Philadelphia Stars have a bootleg home field as well, and that thing is in Detroit, Michigan. I only mention that because both of these teams are sharing a home field this year in Canton, Ohio. Pittsburgh, the designated home team for this game, but both will be playing their home teams here in Canton. Let's take a look at this one. Jersey -2.5. I'm going to play that side, the favorite side here. I think last week's final scores, were a little bit misleading. If you looked at the Generals game, they played the defending champion Birmingham Stallions. They lose 27-10. Face value, that looks really bad. 17-point loss. for a team that lost one of their star players, Gervonta Turpin, wide receiver, kick returner, now doing the same for the Dallas Cowboys. He's gone. Luis Perez, who I previously mentioned in the XFL, was a part-time quarterback here last year. He's gone. But the 27-10 loss last week was not that bad. I mean, really, the final score, if we did one of those rescoring charts of this game, it would be a lot closer. Jersey had 4 drives, I should say, inside the Birmingham 10-yard line and only came away with 10 points. They were stoned twice, once on 4th and goal from the 1, once on 4th and goal from the 2. It ended 65 and 74-yard drives that could have given them a lot more than 10 points. But Birmingham is that kind of defense. That's why they're the champion team, returning champion team, and they got a lot of their personnel back. Jersey outgained Birmingham in that contest, 356 to 310. So again, the 27-10 looks a lot worse than it was. The other side of this coin, Pittsburgh losing 22-15 to New Orleans and losing on a New Orleans touchdown with 1:13 left. Your initial reaction is, wow, Pittsburgh really hung in there and played well until, again, unless you watched the game and you only went through the box score, even through the box score, you could learn that Pittsburgh was really decimated statistically. The other side had 22 first downs. Pittsburgh only had 10. Pittsburgh only had 156 total yards in the game. They only had 72 through the air. They were beaten up pretty well in this contest. They wind up scoring 15 points. Only 3 of those were from the offense. The other 2 were a punt return for touchdown and a 1-yard fumble return for touchdown. So again, New Orleans got the late cover, but the game looks a lot closer than it was. Pittsburgh's passing offense, the 72 yards that they put up, and their pass defense, the 270 that they allowed, were both worst in week 1 of the USFL. So now we match these 2 teams up, and to me, it looks like a sheer case of, in college football, we would call this in the second week, Dan, either a step up or a step down in class. For me, it's a significant step down in class for New Jersey. Just played the defending champions. Now they get to play Pittsburgh, a team with a new head coach, team with a new GM, a team with a lot of new personnel, a team that can't throw the football. So for them, on both sides of the ball, this is going to be a step down in class. While on the other side, for Pittsburgh, it's pretty much a step up in class, especially on the defensive side of the football, where Jersey is a better team than New Orleans. So matchups work in the Generals' favor. I talked about the changes for Pittsburgh. You know, Ray Horton, the new head coach for this team, and they've done a little bit of finagling. I mean, the OC and the DC are the same here, but they have done a little bit of changing of the guards, so to speak, with philosophies. Quarterbacks here for the Pittsburgh Maulers, you remember them best from college, way more than you would from professional. But James Morgan for the Pittsburgh Maulers, he was a quarterback for Bowling Green and then FIU. And then you have Troy Williams, who quarterbacked the Utah Utes and then the Washington Huskies. But both of those guys were, again, in a new system, a little bit different for them last week. They didn't really produce. My power ratings for this game show Jersey, and you have to assign some touch of a home field value. Maybe you don't have to, Dan. It's just me that I did. But considering both of them will be working on this field, I gave a little bit of an edge to Pittsburgh. Still, the power ratings showed New Jersey should be 5.5 in my favor. They're only 2.5. So I think there's some line value along with the matchup edges, along with the misleading final scores from last week. I think laying under a field goal, probably pretty good here with the New Jersey Generals.
I love it. Another strong breakdown, a potential buy low spot on the Generals after, according to Rob, they got stoned last week. You would have thought maybe they waited until Thursday, 420, to do that. But I suppose they got their time in a week early. So, Rob, I'm looking forward to checking out some USFL action this weekend. I highly suggest checking out Rob's premium plays because, as we mentioned, he has just been running hot in these extra football leagues. And the fact that this guy has his own power ratings tells you he might even know just a little bit more than some of the interns throwing up odds on these games here. So, Rob, what are people going to find over at your page? Because it's not just USFL. It's not just XFL. We got NBA in full swing. So I know that you're definitely spreading yourself thin, but these are the times that you shine, right, Rob?
Yeah, let me lead with this, Dan, since we're on a USFL and XFL show. I've only released early in the week one time this season, but I'm doing it this afternoon. Best bet for
Mm.
USFL will be up and available as soon as I conclude my wager talk duties with the first pitch show. So let's say about 3 o'clock Eastern time, I'll get to putting that play up. You'll want to go check that out. USFL looks like there's a strong play. I think we can take advantage of a number there. The XFL final week of the regular season also have a play going up there as well. And as far as the NBA playoffs are concerned, I'll have two best bets up and available for this evening. Again, you take these things game by game. Last night, off of a 3-1 NBA card, Dan, but a little disappointing because the 5% didn't get there. So we made money, but the 5% did not get there. Come back tonight with those. Major League Baseball was mostly daytime. One play from night action in Major League Baseball. You can get all my selection packages each and every day. WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, and as Rob's saying, with times like these and just the absolute, giant slate that you're going to be getting from our man Rob Veno, I highly suggest if it's your first time buying picks, this is a guy who I sometimes will blindly back. So why not use our promo code TRYWT, as he's mentioning when he has this action this weekend across multiple different sports, across multiple different leagues. Take a look at one of those 3-day all-access passes. Use the code TRYWT after setting up your new account at wagertalk.com/50% off the ticket price. Not too bad. And you get a quick return on investment with all these plays that Rob is dropping there. Check him out at wt.buzz/RV. One of my favorites. Can't wait to see you out at the ballpark soon, Rob. Appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk to you again on the show likely next week. We got one more order of business to take care of. We got a little soccer action and a little boxing action with the Irishman coming up right after this here on Wager Talk Extra. Welcome on back here to Wager Talk Extra, and we love ending our midweek show with the Irishman, Kevin Dolan, joining us. And Kevin, we got a boxing play, and we're going to, I guess, do our weekly check-in with Man U and Sevilla. I feel like we've had back-to-back weeks where we've been breaking this matchup down, but we have a different play in that one. But before that, I want you to strut your stuff a little bit, because I tell people all the time, hit that little bell, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss our shows here at Wager Talk TV. Well, you better, maybe that we need a subscription that just says, hey, the Irishman is on, because you gave out a 12-1 winner on a KO TKO prop, and that thing cashed, Kevin. So anyone who is rolling with the free plays here, they got to be pretty happy on a Wednesday morning, right?
Yeah, it was nice to cash that one. Can't beat a bit of Chinese power, Dan. He did a number. I'm just a bit annoyed that I only made it a 1% in a way, because I got a couple of messages of people I trust, and they were like, "No, Joyce is going to wear him down." And there was a part of me like, "Am I right in this fight?" So I'm just a bit annoyed that I should have made it 3-4%. But 12-1 winners are 12-1 winners. So we'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, you're always going to wish that you bet more on those plays, but if it lost, that's why we practice the good bankroll management. That's Kevin Dolan. Check him out, wt.buzz/KD. All right, we teased it, Europa League time, and just wash, rinse, repeat. We got to play here in Man U versus Sevilla. What are we looking towards? Side, or how are you breaking down the matchup before maybe you give out our play?
Yeah, I'm going to look towards the total in this one, Dan. Crazy. The reason that we're coming back to this match, it just ended crazily last week. 2-2 draw in Manchester. I was actually on the Manchester and under 3.5 goals prop in that game. Looked good for 90% of the game. United were cruising, took a 2-0 lead early, and then with just 10 minutes left in the game, just exploded. Bang, bang, not one but two own goals for United across the final 10 minutes of action. Seeing that bet go up in smoke. And, that's going to be another concern for United ahead of leg two as well, because both of their starting centre-backs, Rafael Varane and Lisandro Martinez, remain out of the lineup. Luke Shaw questionable as well. So Sevilla, will probably feel confident they can get something out of this game as well, returning home to Spain on Thursday night.
All right, so we think Sevilla can get a little something out of it. Do we think Man U will? Because you said you're looking towards the total. Looking at that sitting at only 205 or 2.5, with -120 towards the over. Is that the way we're looking?
Yeah, yeah. I do like the over in this one because, I do believe United likely find a way to win this game from a side perspective. I think they are the better team overall, but the
Mm.
pricing them to do that is just a bit short in my opinion. So I prefer the over 2.5 goals here a bit more from a value standpoint. Mandelabar's done a great job of kind of revamping the Sevilla offense across recent games. They look a lot more threatening going forward now. They've scored 2 or more goals in 4 straight games since he took charge. And, I believe United will also look at this game and look kind of towards their offense to win this game. That defense with Harry Maguire and Lindelof at the back, that's not one you would feel particularly comfortable with protecting the lead. So I'm expecting the same kind of intensive start from United here. Take it to Sevilla from the outset. They already showed they can cause them a ton of problems going forward in last week's matchup, but I don't think there'll be any complacency this time around from United. And that should also then play into Sevilla's hands to create chances of their own at the other end. So over 2.5 goals for me on Thursday, Dan, in the Europa League matchup between Manchester United and Sevilla.
And Kev, before we get into a little boxing action here, you're talking a little soccer there, but it's not just Europa League. You're not only the king of Spain. MLS has been pretty kind to you as well, and people can use promo code MLS100, and you extended that because you're a man of the people. So what kind of stuff are they going to get with that package? What kind of volume do you kind of look at here in the MLS?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. This was supposed to end on Monday, and then head office obviously came to me because there was a big demand. They were like, "Look, we have to extend this till Friday." Because the run has just been sensational. 10-1 run over the last 11 plays, number one on the season MLS. So move over, George Washington. There's a new King of America or whatever. I'll have to change my moniker. MLS has been sensational this year. So use code MLS100, knocks $100 off the rest of the season. Obviously, it runs all the way through until November. So, still a ton of action to get through.
Absolutely. I love that, man. And hey, if you want me to call you George Washington, we will. I feel you have 1,000 different nicknames. Every single time you come on a show, you end up with a new one. Well, let's call you the Knockout King because you have just been getting us all kinds of money here inside the ring. And this Saturday is a fight that I'm even excited for. Not really a crazy boxing fan. I'm just a fan of making money on boxing with your plays, Kevin. But Tank Davis taking on De La Hoya's golden boy, Ryan Garcia. You got to be pretty excited for this matchup, right?
Yeah, look, maybe in terms of belts or titles or pound for pound rankings, there's bigger fights this year as a whole, but nothing has quite generated the same type of buzz, as this weekend's fight coming up between Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. 2 stars on the kind of Twitter space and Instagram space, both Showtime and DAZN, obviously in the mix for this fight as well. 2 different networks coming together to make this fight happen. If you're a boxing fan, we all know that's been the bane of existence for us over the last 2 decades or so, making networks come together. And I believe Showtime's All Access show has generated almost 6 million views on YouTube alone over the last week. So this is a bona fide mega fight and all, but name both guys undefeated, both guys knockout artists. And, both guys need to be commended for making this fight, getting this fight over the line as well, especially Ryan Garcia. Whether he can see something in Tank's style that he can potentially exploit, who knows? But he's been the one chasing this fight for a couple of years now, agreed to all the demands. So, full credit to both men for making this fight happen. And, as you said, really looking forward to this one in Vegas on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think if you're a boxing fan, this one should be a great one. Even if you're just a fan of the pomp and circumstance, just the talking back and forth that these guys have been doing on social media have added to it a little bit. So we need a little something to place on, Kevin. How are we going to be betting this one for maybe even some more casual fans who plan on tuning in this Saturday?
Well, Gervonta Davis, look, he's such an unusual fighter in the ring, very low volume. He's almost like a sniper in there. He actually throws the fewest number of punches per round in the entire sport. He throws just 34.2 on average. But when he does land, it's like a thunderbolt. That low output more than offset by Davis owning boxing's number 1 power connect percentage. Colossal 47.6% on average. So, this fight really all comes down, in my opinion, to how Ryan Garcia sets up in there because, we know what Tank's going to do from the outset. He's a very cerebral fighter. He takes a few rounds to try and work an opponent out. So a lot of observers feel that the best time to potentially beat Tank, the best way to potentially beat Tank, I should say, is early on. Because like other high-level technicians in the sport, you think of guys like Floyd Mayweather, Alexander Usyk, Andre Ward, most of their problems in fights came early. So with Ryan Garcia's speed and power, especially, Tank should find it very difficult to time those shots coming in against them early in this one. That approach is kind of lent some weight by the fact Joe Goosen, Ryan Garcia's trainer, has tended to let the shackles off his fighters in the past. He's more of an offensive-minded trainer, kind of like Freddie Roach does. He believes in, utilizing the main strengths of his fighter, and, that's certainly Ryan Garcia's speed and power in this fight. However, while that may potentially be Garcia's best chance of a stoppage, let's say, in this fight, if he wants to finish Tank, I'm expecting a bit more of a sedate pace to start in this one. Ryan Garcia has a huge height and reach advantage over Gervonta Davis in this fight. And, with the fact Davis isn't very active in there either, the smart strategy may well be to try and bank rounds here on Saturday night. I have no doubt that bar a knockout shot, just by going by styles alone, Ryan Garcia should be banking rounds just based on activity levels. So while it's always a dicey play, giving out an over on 2 knockout punchers, I think 7.5 is just a little bit too low here. And I do expect this fight to make it, in and around the championship round. So over 7.5 rounds for me is a free play in this one. But obviously we got the big 5% prop play up for this weekend.
Yeah, definitely check out that 5% play. And Kevin, sounds like people will be getting their money's worth with the over 7.5. Probably a back and forth affair, and we hope so. Kevin, always appreciate having you on. Of course, you mentioned the MLS code that we have going. You break down a little boxing there, but NBA, you're handicapping. You're also taking a look with the NHL playoffs going on. So when people head on over to your page to take advantage of that MLS 100, what other kind of stuff are they going to find, brother?
Well, we got a 5% NBA best bet up for Wednesday. 2-0 sweep on Tuesday. We had a 4% winner and a 3% winner. So on Phoenix and Cleveland, respectively. So pretty happy with that. And Wednesday's got the biggest game of the week for me personally. Really love the spot. So head on over for that. As we said, 5% play on Saturday's fight between Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia. We'll have our MLS card up posted by tomorrow. European cards as well. So yeah, all kicking off right now and should be a great week ahead.
WT.buzz/KD. Appreciate you, Kevin. And that's going to shut it down here on another edition of Wager Talk Extra. So you not only got some boxing action, some soccer action, we also had the debut of Rob Veno. Big thanks to him. Big thanks to the production team doing a terrific job behind the scenes. Till tomorrow's edition, I'm your host, Dan Alexander, and best of luck with all your plays.